Hello and welcome to another Ball Blog video diary supplement garden walk. It's been strange weather since I last saw you. We've had the most terrible snap of winter coming back. Fierce winds and frosts doing untold damage to many plants. The beautiful rhododendrons I maybe showed you earlier in the last video. All the flowers were wiped out. The trilliums are suffering. Even the ground cover, although it's recovering now, the anemone here, ranunculoides, was battered and flattened. But since then we've had more spring-like weather. And we've gone from having snow and frost and everything to the need for me to be actually doing a bit of watering among the troughs and other plants. So it just shows you the erratic nature of our weather. It becomes very difficult to know what to do for the gardener, but even the plants. I was tempted to do a video during the immediate aftermath of the storm, or even during one of the days when it subsided a wee bit, but I just couldn't bring myself to go out in the garden to see the damage. It took me 3 days before I could go out. However, just as these things can disappoint us and devastate us, the garden picks up and brings us back hope. Here if we go down, you can see, look at the terrible mess of these podophyllums, blasted by frost. But the thing is, they're still pushing up, they still want to grow, and we should take that as the philosophy for our gardening ourselves. We lost many erythroniums. Flower stems were battered and broken. Here, Erythronium Craigton Cover Girl is recovering from being swept about by the vicious winds. Many of the stems are snapped or broken, but it is recovering, sitting up. Even the lovely Corydalis, you can see how it was battered, swept by the wind. The most extraordinary winds, actually. It was almost non-directional. They were swirling around. So let's have a wander and concentrate on the stuff that is coming rather than anything that was damaged. The raised slab beds starting to get some life in it. Muscaris, narcissus, little anemones. This is a anemone ranunculoides with, look at this extraordinary face. Different forms, but these are some of the newer forms that are coming in. So we come round to the Erythronium bed starting to waken up. Again, many of the early ones were just obliterated, but look at luckily there's many more to come. Here we have two of the John Walker hybrids, two of the finest yellow hybrid Erythroniums. So we've got Susanna there, and the slightly paler one is Irene or Irene. Really nice, superb ones, better. Of course, one of their parents down there, Erythronium tuluminense. This is a later flowering form. Other forms, if I go over here, you can see the one with the tall stem. It's been flowering for some time. Its flower stem snapped by the storm, but this is the a later flowering form, so it's just coming now. If I spin round to one of the frames, lovely, the Erythronium Hendersoni, a bit battered. Down in the depths there, Trillium Erythronium. But we'll walk up the garden and we'll see more of the Trillium Erythronium as I go. wee bed down here that we looked at with the Hepaticus and the Corydalis, it's still going. You can see Meconopsis coming now. That'll be the next to flower. The rock garden. It's quite alive with bulbs. I call it the rock garden because it was originally the rock garden, but it's more concerned with bulbs. And although there are herbaceous plants coming as well, there's plenty Meconopsis self-seed in there. But the wee blue bulbs, always a delight. Erythronium's coming. Snowdrops going over. Roseni. Name left me there for a minute. We come back here across the bulb bed, the lovely stands of Fritillaria imperialis, totally destroyed by the storms, all blown over and snapped. You can see there how the foliage is, that was a lovely smooth cushion, blown about, but not everything's been damaged, and plenty more will come, and plants will recover. So a nice, here looking probably a Trillium, without going in too close to study albidum or this colour, the more Trilliums coming over there. So there is plenty that's to come. Nice Trillium there, that's survived. Lots of Erythroniums with their stems snapped and bent. Still trying to flower. So let's wander up to the area of the new bed by the pond, where there's lots coming into flower here. Down in the front, Trillium Rivali. If I peek in here, Trillium Hibbersoni, Fritillaria aurea, and then lots and lots of Erythronium, the Sibericum complex I'll call it. I thought these ones were Krylovi, but apparently the paper that's been written says Krylovi has got white flowers. So I should only refer to this one, which is rather battered and chewed now. So that is Erythronium Krylovi. And I was pretty certain these others should be Krylovi as well. However, I will get to the bottom of it one day. Down here, Trillium Hibbersonis. In there, another Hibbersoni. Hibbersoni rather, these are Rivalis, sorry. Trillium Rivalis and Hibbersoni. More of the Erythroniums. Round here, another little group of Trillium Rivali. You might have guessed that it's one of my favourites, and it does very well with us. It seeds around wherever I want to put it. There's more Hibbersoni popping out there, and Rivali's coming. Spin round to this bed. If I come down here, you can see this is the storm damage. This is what happened to so many of the Erythroniums. Their stems got kinked and bent. So it's not killed the flower entirely, but it can no longer stand up, and it's getting a restriction in the amount of moisture and nutrient it's getting up. More Trillium Rivalis going over, actually, they've been out for a while. Not Trillium Rivalis, more Erythronium Sibericum. I was looking at these Trillium Rivalis as I said that, that's why I went more Trillium Rivali coming there. And there we have more Erythroniums. So let's come up. Here's interesting with the earlier on we had these Erythronium caucasicum, And if you look when the stem flowers, seed pods ripe and drop, there's where they drop and empty the capsule. And there's the capsule from last year. Sorry, 2 years. These are 2 years. Here, this cluster here, not the brown spotted one, but these pale ones, these were where the seed pod fell the previous year. So we allow them to self-seed. You will just see a few of this last year's seeds germinating. And then here we've got a lovely little self-seeding colony that I'm trying to build of Trillium Erythronium up here. Just another couple across there. If I come around, you can see they're just beautiful, just tiny. Put my hand in, you can see how beautiful little compact plants. Now I've come to one of the bits I wanted to speak about. My wall. A number of years ago I was in southern Oregon on a rocky riverbank going down to a river, and was amazed by the number of Trillium Erythronium that grew on that rocky bank, and I decided to try and create that feeling here. So that's what we've done. We planted a pot of seedlings out at the top and then encouraged them to seed down the wall. And if you look in between the gaps, between the stones, their early seedlings are starting to flower. New seedlings are appearing. Erythroniums are putting themselves in there. Here's another nice Trillium Erythronium with a few seedlings from last year. And here's a nice wee group here. And there's more there. I'll come round. So you can see how they're cascading down. So there's a bunch of seeds from previous year, and then down the wall we have them beautifully growing. And here's two actually, you can see they're different clones, and a whole batch of seedlings sitting. And these are actually, it's going to be interesting to see how these grow. These are actually sitting in the pine duff and the soil that's been made by the leaves and pine breaking down, sitting on a rock. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get their roots in the back. And I'm sure they will. Not all of them, but some of them will survive. And that's one of the things that interests me in the garden, is how plants put themselves. And often you can get seedlings growing by putting seed into the cracks. There's a lovely little cluster there, Trillium Erythronium, but also Erythroniums. There's some Trillium Erythronium seedlings there. There's 3 tucked into this very narrow gap. Well, that's a bit cheating because I lifted some from the clump on the top, just germinating seedlings, and just put them in there to give them a wee bit of a hand. But it's a great way to garden. Sadly, if I go up the Jeffersonia dubia, you can see it didn't escape the storm. It's got damage. But the plant will grow on, and we have to wait another year for that perfection. Interestingly, this end of the garden was less exposed to the wind, so there was less damage up here, although the rhododendrons, some of these big rhododendrons, the buds were just starting to show colour. Well, they're all frosted and gone before they ever got to open. You can see all along the face of the wall. We don't normally think of bulbs as crevice plants, but they do work really well. And as I say, the best way is to let them seed. So if we go in down there, You can see how the groups are seeding around all along the cracks. It'd be very difficult to plant a bulb in there, but drop a seed and they grow like that. Blue bulbs, there's a bunch of you can tell from those leaves, these leaves and these buds. More Erythronium japonicum coming there. And of course this pathway full of self-seeded Erythroniums, self-seeded Trilliums. And here, look at the side of this wall, a lovely cluster here, there, of Erythronium revolutums flowering away in a rock cluster, looking so natural, so beautiful. Not so much like a garden, more like something you'd find in the wild maybe. And just looking round, it's, as I say, the first day I came out, that I was brave enough to come out after the storm and view the damage. We could see a lot of the damage from the house, of course. This rhododendron, pachysanthum, was just starting to come into flower. You could just see the beautiful pink on the buds, and that's what the frost did to it. It hangs on to its dead flowers, whereas some of the other big ones, within a day, after the first night of wind and frost, we woke up and all their flowers were on the ground. But nature, as I say, heals and recovers. And here's the next wave of rhododendrons starting to flower. There's plenty more. Kept their buds tight and survived. So we have plenty more. So I'll just finish now, I think, with a small walk, with a look at my wall, my little piece of southern Oregon, to try and mimic that lovely wall that I saw. And it's in a way, it's a lesson in patience. I haven't tried. This has taken me maybe 4 or 5 years to get to this point. I'm prepared to wait. But every year now, I hope more and more Trillium revalis will go down the face of the wall. And other plants. There's snowdrops in there, and there's alliums, and further along the Trillium Erythroniums as well. So that's it. We're playing with habitats. We're playing with plants. There'll be plenty more to come. So thanks for joining me on this walk. I hope you'll join me on my next one. Bye for now.